OpenAI, the makers behind ChatGPT, have released a powerful new image and text understanding AI model, GPT-4, that the company calls the latest milestone in its effort in scaling up deep learning. Simply put, GPT-4 can solve more difficult problems, not just with words and numbers, but with images as well. Now, with greater accuracy, thanks to its broader general knowledge and problem-solving abilities. We have with us in the newsroom Amit Ranjan. Nikhil Malhotra, who is the Chief Information Officer of Tech Mahindra, is also joining us right now. With me continues to be Karthik. Let me first come to you, Amit. What is the difference between GPT-3 and GPT-4, and why is it such a hot cake right now?
Thank you, Shweta. To begin with, OpenAI has junked the word chat from ChatGPT. So it is GPT-4 that has been launched. Two, this marks the shift from a non-profit research lab to a profit tech firm. What can it do? They're calling it the most advanced AI system. And I think Karthik will elaborate on that.
Okay. Karthik, I think you've very, very closely tracked GPT, its growth, its spurt, its progress, what it can do, what it's capable of. We've done multiple, rounds of discussions on this. There's been a documentary that News9 Plus has just recently released. I want to come to you and talk about the potential of GPT here. What exactly is GPT-3 capable of, and GPT-4, of course, is going to be bigger and better?
Right, Shweta. So, in fact, if you remember a couple of weeks ago, you and I had this discussion in one of our Business Plus episodes itself, where we were actually trying to understand the chat war which is hotting up in the world. And at that time, I think our discussion led to a point where we agreed that if you could have a chat bot, or if you could have an engine that could multitask, an engine which is not restricted to only text-based answers, and a separate engine which is restricted to image generation, and a third engine which is creating avatars of people, and perhaps a fourth engine which is creating videos and creating music and all other kind of creative content. And if there can be a super AI or a super engine which can collaborate across these multiple creative streams, and all your queries or all your requirements of that you have of professionals can be handled by this one singular engine, then that would be the king of AI. And I think with GPT-4, as Amit very rightly pointed out, that ChatGPT is no longer ChatGPT-4, is GPT-4. So they've done away with chat as the real harbinger of its existence. Okay. So it's moved into a multifaceted dimension. It's moved into a unified solution, a singular engine, which can handle complex scenarios, including, I've been told, text to video, which means you feed it a text and it's going to, lo and behold, create a video for you, and you're good to go. Okay. So it becomes really an interesting sort of hot potato right now, to borrow a phrase that someone had used in our earlier discussion. It's become a hot potato, and yeah, I think the differential this time around is that I don't think there's a free trial. I tried logging into GPT-4, but there wasn't a free access given to me. So I believe it is going to be a costly affair to use GPT-4. How costly, I'm yet to run the numbers. Amit has got the numbers, so perhaps we can, before we go to Nikhil, we can just understand what the numbers look like for GPT-4.
Yeah, so, thank you, Karthik. So it's going to, they have coined two terms, prompts and completion. Prompts is the information that you feed into GPT-4. That would cost you $0.3 for every 1,000 syllables. Now, syllables are not words, so the word fantastic will have fantastic 3 syllables. So it is $0.03 for every 1,000 syllables that you feed in. What it generates after after giving back what you want from ChatGPT is $0.06. So that is the completion tokens. So that is how much it is going to cost you to use ChatGPT from now, GPT-4 from now on.
Okay, okay. Before we go into the terms and before we really understand what it's capable of, Nikhil is also joining us. Nikhil is also, remember, the World Economic Forum Artificial Intelligence Fellow. Nikhil, thanks very much for taking time out. What exactly are we talking about as far as GPT-4 is concerned? How is it different from GPT-3? And what is it capable of, really?
No, so I think in the past 3 or 4 months, I've lost track of what needs to be done in terms of AI because I think I've been doing AI for the last 20 odd years, Shweta, and generative AI seems to be that holy grail, and that holy grail seems to have been covered by GPT 3.5. But I think for users who would use GPT-4, and I've tried a little bit of it, not tried much of it, but in casual conversations, you may not be able to see that difference, but you'll be able to see that difference in a much more complex task. And a complex task could be an example that, look, I am free between 11 to 2, you are free between 3 to 5. Could we pick up some coffee? Can GPT actually give us a prompt in terms of saying what is the time frame that we are looking at, right? So number one. Number two, I think there's already mentioned on this platform that GPT-4 can handle both video and image nuances. And that's a huge stake because sometimes what you really need to do in a normal human conversation, you send a lot of these messages like emojis. Can you understand those emojis as well? And can you reply back from a chatbot perspective or a textual bot perspective is something which is unique as well. And I think I just read through GPT-4 some of the specs, and they seem to have handled almost all state-of-the-art nuances of video and image, but they're also actually done very well on some of the tests. Like, for example, it has scored about the 90th percentile for a biology test, where GPT 3.5 was actually scoring only 10th percentile or 26th percentile, as the case may be. One other important thing that I think they've done with GPT-4 is that it is 82% less likely to respond to requests for disallowed content, which is good. Because we also want some of these AI systems to become ethical, to be more transparent and not respond to certain things and not percolate some of these things in the open domain. And it's also 40% more likely to, produce more factual responses, as in case of GPT 3.5. There are some challenges which still remain, and I think those challenges remain exactly what they were in terms of GPT 3.5. It can hallucinate in the middle. It can give you false information certain times. A very interesting case, I actually wrote to GPT 3.5. I said, look, I've seen pink elephants fly. And GPT 3.5 responded back to me saying, no, you must be hallucinating. And then I said, no, my wife says pink elephants do fly. And GPT 3.5 came back, well, if your wife is saying it must be correct. So I think you have a way to make sure that you can play around with these things. But at the end of the day, I think it's a great stride ahead for AI in terms of generation that we could see. And I think those are major differences between GPT-4 and 3.5.
All right, so not just in terms of generation, as a matter of fact. Amit, I want to come to you because we were discussing just this morning when the announcement regarding GPT-4 were out, to what exactly it's capable of. And you told me some extremely exhilarating insights there with regards to coding, with regards to games. Quickly run us through what your understanding and findings were about GPT-4.
Exactly, Shweta. I'll start with how sensitive it is. Go to your refrigerator in the morning, take a photograph of what all is there in the refrigerator. It is intelligence enough to give you recipes that could be made only from the ingredients that the photograph of your refrigerator has. It is that intelligent. It is only 24 hours old, and Microsoft has revealed that they are running their other app Bing on GPT-4. Forgive me again. Taking both of you back, and Karthik will relate to this more, closer to my age. There used to be a game we had. There used to be a game we had on the old Nokia phone called Snake. GPT-4 generated, a user used GPT-4 to generate this in less than 20 minutes. What I'm coming to is this user had zero knowledge of JavaScript. Another game that was again available on the old phones, ping pong, where there would be a platform on which you bounce the ball,
right,
was generated in less than 60 seconds by GPT-4. Users are using, there's another user which calls itself Do Not Pay. They are using GPT-4 to create instant, they call it one-click lawsuits. You want to sue somebody, you just tap your information, and within seconds, you have a 1,000 word long lawsuit ready for you. You're going out on a trip and you want to know what medicines you want to take for malaria. And you put in the name of the medicine that has been recommended by your physician. It will give you alternate medicines with the same compounds which are not patented. Also, it can buy those for you and email you the receipt within minutes.
Okay.
So that is how sensitive it is. And I'll carry on from the exact percentile that GPT-4 scored on LSAT, SAT math and SAT reading was 88 percentile, up from 10% that ChatGPT 3.5 had scored.
Okay.
So that is how advanced it is. Karthik?
I want to also bring in Nikhil at this point in time quickly. Nikhil, why are we using GPT-4 as the term? Why are we not using ChatGPT-4? From what I understood and what I read this morning, and correct me if I'm wrong, GPT-4 could be imbibed in ChatGPT. ChatGPT will then become GPT plus or ChatGPT plus. How exactly are we missing? What are we missing in the terminologies here?
I think you're right. I think these terminologies can be confusing, but I think generally what what OpenAI has done is the first ChatGPT 3.5 was a textual-based mode system only. Now what you have done is you have actually added multi-modes, and multimodal has always been a kind of pathway construction for us. Mostly AI has been very, very specific to a certain value or certain things that you do. So if artificial intelligence could work on only textual content, it would not look at images, it will only work on textual content. If artificial intelligence worked at vision, it would only work in vision and would not look at text. I think for the first time, we are seeing these modes combined together as one neural pathway or multiple neural pathways combining together to produce a result. And that's why these misnomeric terms, right? Or maybe terms that are used. Some of them call it ChatGPT, some of them call it GPT-4. But the ideology is that if you go to that same ChatGPT version, it will be now called ChatGPT Plus, which is you can still use your textual inputs over there. GPT-4 is a very generic term to say that this is generic pre-trained transformer, and it includes multi-modes. It includes vision as well as it includes text. I think I would look at what Karthik and Karthik was saying and some of the others were saying over there. Behind me is a screen which is today working on Super Mario Brothers, which is built by OpenAI code. So I actually looked at 5 minutes of this, and it's actually training itself. It's making a machine learning code, and it's actually trying to produce that value over there. All of this, I did this within 10 minutes. I think from an IT industry standpoint, Shweta, the question is, can we improve on productivity of developers when we look at some of these systems? And I think that's a huge, huge takeaway and an advantage for us.
Nikhil, I want to cut to the chase and ask you very directly, how long do you think our jobs are secure?
I think that's a quintessential question, Karthik. I think a lot of people ask us. I think our jobs are pretty secure. I think I have termed this in one of your interviews, and I've actually had a chat with you as well. We would now be not called as programmers. We would not be called as neuro-linguistic programmers. And I think the idea of putting us as neuro-linguistic is we'll have to figure out what is the result that an artificial intelligence system creates. And the human in the loop, whether it's in the loop, on the loop, or off the loop, the responsibility of us humans is to figure out, that result is correct. And look, GPT is a great step ahead for artificial intelligence. But let me tell you, from an enterprise context, we still have to worry about that it does not create that harm value when we talk to customers. And I think that's why a ring fencing or a kind of bordering of that sector is required. So you need domain experts. You still need programmers to make sure that it owns into itself. And you still need a lot of design engineers, designers, business analysts to figure out whether it's going the right way when you want to do for an enterprise. I cannot be as frivolous and I cannot be as esoteric when I'm responding to a customer query. So I think we're still required, Karthik. Our jobs are still there.
That's good to know. But one supplementary question, Nikhil. Amit was referring to the snake game being reproduced in a matter of seconds, right? And many other things which are getting recreated very quickly. They must have taken months, if not years, of programming earlier on. But now the time has really been cut down drastically. What I want to understand from you, in the context of AI and more so in the context of machine learning, is that are these engines capable of developing something new from scratch? I understand it's easy for them to look at a model and replicate that. And that is where I think the human ingenuity, I hope at least, you may be able to correct me, I hope the human ingenuity will still be relevant for a while, because will machine learning be able to create something new which doesn't exist, because it's only looking at data which is already there in the servers?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's a dichotomous question. I think in terms of code pieces, I don't think it will be able to generate for a small period of time at this point, Karthik. I think what it is doing as a transformer or what it is doing as a language model is it has learned a lot of these contextual values of code which is written on OpenStack, on Wikipedia, and so on and so forth on the internet, and it's trying to relay back. Consider this; it's an example. Earlier, us developers used to go to Google and search for a code piece. Today, that code piece is available to us right on the development environment. Like if you use Visual Studio, you use an Eclipse or so on and so forth. So that becomes an easy option for us, and that improves productivity. I think from a creativity standpoint, in terms of ingenuity, we have seen AI create some remarkable pieces in terms of art and in terms of something which is of content value for, let's say, imagery and video. And I think that is one place that it'll do. I think whether it'll be able to create a code or not, we'll all have to look at it, whether it creates a new code, it creates a new language. Those are some terms that we keep hearing about. But in terms of art, we already see it. A large part of these AI systems can actually create sublime art by combining two or three pieces. Number one. Number two, you may be able to create a complete video if you've actually trained your system well, which has hitherto not been known. You already know that there are places, there are sites like thispersondoesnotexist.com, where AI in a lot of ways is actually generating faces of people which do not exist in this world. You may also be able to use it in a much better way. For example, a car design, which is not done by human beings by looking at all the different features. An AI system may be able to generate that car art as well. But these are all objective pieces of content. When we are going back into code and when we are trying that GPT would create a code, yes, it can if it knows this, but then the nuances of code, the compilation of code, running it on a PC, etc., all come into play. And I think that is a little time far off. But in terms of content of art, creating pieces of art, creating prose, creating new elements, I think we are there, and it's already doing that stuff at the moment.
Okay. It's going to be a tough run against ChatGPT and especially GPT-4. Nikhil, thanks very much for all your inputs there on this very important story. We, of course, continue to track all developments on in the space of OpenAI, specifically with ChatGPT and other softwares that are out there, including ChatGPT. Thanks very much for joining us, Amit Ranjan and Nikhil.